Howdy, rugby fans. This is Grant Cole, the rugby evangelist, and I'm here on the Arrows Rugby Football Club webpage for the Arrows Schoolboys versus Fordham Prep Academy out of New York City, New York. And today I've got with me in the booth Jason Kimball. He's the athletic director here at St. Pius High School in Houston. And you know, Jason, I want you to, before we go into anything today, I need you to clear something up for me. Is it St. Pius X, St. Pius X? What is it?
Thanks for asking that, actually. It's St. Pius X High School.
St. Pius X High School.
Or SPX.
SPX. And Jason, man, this field looks better than we've ever seen it before. What have you been doing out here to this field? This field is green, and, I mean, we've seen a lot of brown on this field before, but today there's very little brown and a lot of green.
Well, we put in a lot of time and effort into it, mainly from aerating it with cleats of high school athletes. But this is we just named it Kubiak Stadium this year after Gary Kubiak. And for a natural grass field, we have 3 levels of football, 3 levels of soccer, boys rugby, boys and girls lacrosse, all using this to compete. And also the Arrows men's team uses this for their home pitch. So it's gotten a lot of usage, and we're just blessed to have some good weather and really diligent staff. Tom McGee, a Pius alum, is our athletic grounds coordinator. He spends a ton of time and energy on it, and we're very happy to have a good natural grass pitch to play this game today.
Now, Gary Kubiak, for the listeners out there, if you don't know who Gary Kubiak is, that proves you are not a Houstonian. Gary Kubiak, former coach of the Houston Texans, former quarterback in the NFL for the Denver Broncos, also former quarterback for Texas A&M University, and I believe he was a quarterback here at St. Pius X, is correct?
Yes, he was a quarterback, a basketball player, and a baseball player.
And so that's why his name is on the stadium here. So today we're starting off the broadcast a little early. The game doesn't kick off till 6 o'clock, and we have in the booth with us Mike Shad. Mike is the founder of the Arrows Rugby Football Club. Is that correct, Mike?
Yes, sir.
That's correct. So, Mike, tell us about how this got started.
Well, I wanted to get back to playing rugby again, and I looked around and realized that there's nothing tying the Catholic rugby community together, and I thought it was a good opportunity to, I played on a Catholic college team back in college, and I said, there's 3 Catholic high schools in town that play rugby. There's not another Catholic men's club that I know of. There's several college men's Catholic clubs around from different Catholic colleges. I thought it would be a good opportunity to bring another element to rugby to begin with. Bringing in the spirituality, bringing in more of a purpose with the men's club, and really getting together guys that are like-minded into their faith and building something really special that would give the opportunity for high school kids here, like the Arrows Schoolboys, St. Pius High School, also guys that go off from Catholic schools to come back and stay involved in their faith as well.
Now, I've kind of given y'all a moniker that y'all are, and you tell me if this is accurate or not. I've kind of said that y'all are a rugby version of the Knights of Columbus.
It's very good. I would say you're right on, pretty close.
Okay, so
in more ways than one.
Yeah.
Okay, well that's good. That's good to hear. I mean, I've always, I grew up in a part of town in Bryan, Texas, where the Knights of Columbus were. I mean, they did everything. They helped the elderly people in our neighborhood. They were always there, feeding time. If somebody passed away, they were there mowing yards, taking care of things that needed to get taken care of.
Right.
But they were also educating the kids when in things that they were providing just for all kinds of stuff that needed to be provided for. So when it comes to me, what I know of the Knights of Columbus, that's always a positive impression.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think once I got married, I realized even more that men need something to go out and do. There's no, it used to be, I guess, in the way old days, you'd go out and you'd chop lumber or you'd take care of the cow or whatever you did. But it's hard to find something to do that, one, the wives approve of, and 2, that can make you into a better person. So once I got married, I'd already started the club, but I'm finding even more appreciation for what we can offer, because half of our team are probably married guys that are now out, and it just gives everybody a good avenue.
So Mike, one of the things, talking to some of the other Arrows, I noticed that you guys don't, and this is the wrong word to use, ambition. But the Arrows don't have a lot of ambition to go and be a larger division club. you're more like a community club. Your idea is more to have fun as a group, playing your rugby, but it's more important to you to give back to the community than it is to be of a high level division competitor on the field. Is that accurate?
I wouldn't call that accurate, but I think that's where we started. We realized early, well, one thing that we didn't want to come in and do, and I was never one of my goals, was to go poach players from all the other clubs around.
Okay.
Even the Catholic ones. I mean, if they're playing high level, I didn't want to come in and be that enemy of the other clubs that just start poaching kids. What I did want to do was give an avenue early for guys that have never experienced rugby at all to have an avenue to come play. So we started out in Division III with that mindset. We're going to build the social, the community first. But as we get more and more guys, we will eventually, we hope to go from D4 all the way up to D1 within the next 5 to 10 years. Okay. But we're building from the bottom to make sure that, we get everyone involved. And the fruit, you can see it there with, so far, I think 45% of our total players this year and last year had never played rugby.
So that's interesting, because a lot of people in the, when they look at D3, D4 rugby, they don't look at it as a foundational level of rugby. Mm-hmm. And you're looking at it as a level of rugby where you lay a foundation to build a larger club on. Is that?
That's correct. So once we bring everybody together, when we get to 20 or 25 guys that are like, I'm committed, I'm in, I'm going to be at every practice, we'll take that group and go up and leave our under group still playing at the D3 level.
Now, something else you're doing with the Arrows that I really admire, and I don't see anybody else in town doing. Okay, and I'm going to ask you this because it's really something I like. What is your arrow number?
Mine's number 1.
And Jason, what's your arrow number?
I believe it's 43.
Mm-hmm. Now, why are you keeping up with these numbers?
Well, we want to create a legacy. We want to create something, a culture that when people play against the Arrows or become an Arrow, they understand what it is. And we want to set the history that, you're part of a big brotherhood, a big community of guys that have come before you or are going to come after you, so that everyone can take some ownership into making this club better every single year. And so the number simply means what player were you to make your first cup match? When you played in your first cup match, you get your arrow number. So
well, I want to go a bit further too, because again, this is the initial launching of it. But when we joined this year for the new members, we each got a binder with the history of the club and to see some of the names before us. The gentleman who's doing the PA next door to us right now, Larry Monks, is arrow number 30 something and other, and really he was the one that motivated me to go out there and get more involved. And they needed an extra scrum half on a cup game against Galveston, and Larry, him and I founded the St. Pius program together, got out there and played. And so it's just that connectivity to guys that are still looking to move up, especially now we have professional rugby here in Houston, move up the competition ladder. But there's guys that, just want to have a good time and meet good people, and they're still connected to that same group.
Jason, you have a very good overview of, and I call it the Catholic rugby system here in Houston, and it really is a system when you get to looking at it. So can you give us from the bottom up, starting with the middle schools, going into the high schools, and then feeding into going into, we have St. Edward's. They sent some representatives here today.
Correct. One
of the things that I'd like to see happen, and I've made some phone calls around trying to make sure people know that this is happening, is get some of the other Catholic universities bringing representatives in when the Arrow schoolboys play, but is to feed into that program as well. Kind of give us an overview of what that system is here in Houston and how it feeds into each other.
That's a very hard question to answer, because it's ever changing. I mean, you look back to 15, 20 years ago, there was through the Catholic middle schools, there was a competitive sevens league for middle school, male and females. And a lot of our players that played at Strake, St. Pius, and St. Thomas were alumni of that system, and that has since gone away. And I think there's only 2 Catholic schools playing at this time. It's Regis and Western Academy that just come off the top of my head. But you have 3 pretty large schools, high schools competing rugby, and you really can't have this conversation without talking about Coach Mills and Coach Wolfinger at St. Thomas, who right, wrong, or indifferent, not just with the Catholic private schools or even Houston rugby. I mean, the state of rugby wouldn't be where it is without them two setting a strong foundation. And it's ebbed, it's flowed. And where I think we're really trying to connect the dots is we have a very, very large youth program growing in Texas, but our high school programs have kind of plateaued over the last 10 to 15 years. We haven't really added new programs, and we need to expand it. We need to have more connection for students that are learning the sport, so that they're not playing it in middle school, don't see it for 4 years, and then they go play it in college. And that's really hopefully a component what the schoolboys is trying to do, and throughout is we want the high school level to improve.
All right. Well, folks, Mike, you got anything else to add?
Well, just some things that we're trying to work on right now, some big projects going on. We're getting very close to wrapping up an agreement to have land to put a pitch on and run and operate for the next 10 years.
Oh, wow.
And once we have that under us, you'll start to see we go a little bit from the community to the competitive. And then also we hope to be able to alleviate some of the pressure off of the high schools that either don't have facilities or their facilities are just simply overrun. And on top of that, it's impossible to fit a real rugby field inside of a track or in most stadiums. So we hope within the next year or two to have a fully developed, really nice pitch of our own. We're just about to wrap up that land agreement, and then it'll be developing it, leveling it.
You know, the NOLA Gold,
Yes,
they negotiated a lease with the Archdiocese there. Mm-hmm. And part of their lease is they built the stadium, the bleachers, and then took the track out of that field and actually made a rugby field there. And they have 4 Catholic high schools there that have rugby teams, and all 4 of those Catholic high schools now have a rugby field to play on.
Yep, and that's what we're looking to do, be able to help grow it, help provide a facility for people to use to help grow the game, because it's a lot of schools don't like having rugby on campus or can't, or just haven't had the experience to bring it out. So hopefully what we're doing really in the long term is building a community, but also building an awareness of rugby among men who can then give back to the high schools. Because I think it sounds to me, I've only been in Houston about 6 years, but everyone's pulling from the same resources right now as far as who can coach, who has played enough rugby to coach, who can
officiate,
and hopefully we can just expand that. And I think we've started to do that.
So another question, Jason. Other than the 3 major high schools that are involved in this, are there any other Catholic high schools in the Houston area that have enough student body to field a rugby team?
Well, I started a high school rugby program at a school with 200 kids in it. So I mean, there's no school too small not to start rugby. To be candid with you, and it's kind of
I support that, by the way.
Yeah,
I believe that.
Absolutely, and again. We said this so many times, whether it's through the Arrows or I've said this with the Rugby Texas board, is we're selling a good product. I've yet to ever have someone I've introduced to the sport come back and say, wow, it was a mistake. Oh, it was a waste of time. It's quite the opposite. Oh, it's changed my life, and this is something that stayed with me forever. So we're selling a good product. It's just the resources to get it out there, coaching, officiating, which is a huge deficit right now. We've got to all start giving back to the sport that has given a lot to us, and that's really where we all need to grow. So there's, again, and it's not just private schools. I really think where we'll see the corner turned here in Texas, is like they're doing in California, is get the public schools and their, especially football coaches, in line with the benefits of rugby, and just not even being a negative, but just allow it to grow. We'll really see things start to pick up, like Sci-Fair, as you've seen up.
Completely agree.
Absolutely.
There. Well, Mike, we're glad to have you up here today, and man, really, you've brought together. This is 2 years. You started this 2 years ago.
Yes, sir.
And look where you're at now. You've already got a schoolboys side put together, and they're hosting Fordham Prep today. And I got to say, man, in less than 2 years, that's a pretty amazing accomplishment.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
All right, Mike Shad, folks. He's Arrows RFC #1, the founder of the team, and the guy who actually put all this together. When you're watching this today and you're looking at what's happening, this is all a culmination of what he started off thinking about doing. So it's great stuff to see what's going on here today. Folks, Jason Kimball and I will be on the mic today, and we're going to start by going over the rosters of the 2 teams we've got out. And Jason, I think we're going to start off with this Fordham team. And take a quick drink of water here.
Well, that is something we're going to have to keep an eye on. We're in a press box, and it's still hot and humid.
It's still hot. We got the AC on.
And this team from New York City, it's snowing currently up in New York City. It's one thing to get used to Texas heat, but then you get smacked with humidity. Maybe something that weighs on this lineup as they take the field. And the noticeable size, especially with the front row that Fordham Prep's going to be rolling out there today.
So at number 1, Andre Villarba, he's going to be wearing the number 26 on his back. He's 5'8", 225 pounds. He's a junior from Yonkers. He's played 3 years in the football program at Fordham, and he throws the shot in javelin. This young man, he's a big fella out there. When you look at him, he's not small at all. He came onto the club today after some injuries happened on the side, and they've got a couple of players out, and they've had to shift some folks around. So Andre Villarba is going to be at loose head, and at hooker is number 2, Chris Johnson, 5'11", 225. He's a senior out of Brooklyn. He's previously went to Xavier High School and has played there. He's a 4-year rugby player, 3-year football player at Fordham, and Johnson is he's a specimen. I was looking at him a while ago. There's not a whole lot of extra weight on him.
No.
He looks like he can move around the field.
All three of their front row are big, but athletic big.
And number 3, George Gasper, 6 foot 220. He's a junior out of Manhattan. He's also a 3-year football player. So got a pretty good sized front row there for the Fordham Prep team. At the second row in the engine room, got a couple of brothers, senior and a junior out of Manhattan, Neal McStay and Evan McStay. They are twin towers, man.
6'6", both of them.
205 and 230.
Definitely the first things you notice when they got off the bus, and having 2 locks of that size, that prototypical size, even for a men's side, much less a high school, is going to be an advantage. And they're going to be, again, anchoring that front row, which is going to have a distinctive weight advantage over the schoolboys team. So they always say, just like in football, you're going to win it in the trenches, you're going to win it up front in rugby, and the Fordham Prep Rams are definitely going to have the advantage of the first 5.
And the McStay boys are both basketball players. Neal's played for 4 years and Evan for 3 years. Both of them have played as city athlete players in the Sevens program, which recent local boy Neil McMillan started there, and that's a Sevens program in New York. And Neal has also been a New York Metro All-Star rugby player and a Manhattan rugby player. So big stuff there. These guys are real athletes, multi-sport athletes, and they know how to get around the field and handle the ball as well. They're not just big guys who get the hard stuff done. Coming out in the back row, Lucas Jeremiah is 5'4", 140. I'm not real sure if he's 5'4". I think that's
it's got to be a typo.
I think it's a typo, but I mean, I look out there and I see a couple of short fellas, but I just don't know if that's nope, that's not a typo. He's 5'4".
Yep.
He is. So we're going to expect a 5'4" number 6 to get around the field pretty hard then. He's a senior out of Crestwood. He's has been around at Pelham. He's a 4-year soccer player. He's been in student government and the Italian club. So yeah, like we said, for that kind of size, at 6, you're going to expect him to be getting around the field. At number 7, the captain, Danny Hughes, 5'9", 160 pounds. He's a senior out of Yonkers. New York Metro All-Star player. He's played for Play Rugby USA. And he is 4-year wrestler, 2-year football player, and again, he is the captain, known pretty much for getting his getting around the field and making sure his charges stay on board. Number 8, Derek Serto, 6', 180. He's a senior out of Manhattan. He plans to attend TCU next year. So Tashay Flowers, you need to definitely get yourself onto this young man and make sure he knows who you are and where you're going. He's 4 years in the wrestling program at Fordham as well, so he's definitely got some time going on there. Coming up at number 9, the young man who just found out he got accepted to Harvard, Spencer Carter, 5'6", 130 pounds. He's a senior out of Pelham, and he's a two-time wrestling captain at Fordham. So Spencer Carter, congratulations on finding out you just got into Harvard. That's got to be a happy day for you. Number 10, Anthony McGrath. He's the vice captain. He's 6'1", 165, a senior out of Yonkers. He's he's been a New York Metro All-Star rugby player. He's played for Pelham, City Athlete, and Play Rugby USA. Number 11 on the wing, Jimmy McGowan. He's 5'11", 175, a junior out of City Island, Bronx, and he's a 3-year football player. Number 12, George Sperez is in for an injured Connor Gorman. He's 6'3", 190, a junior out of Harrison, is a 3-year wrestler as well. And number 13, Will Woods, 6'1", 170, a junior out of Riverdale, Bronx. He's been with the Play Rugby USA program. That's if you hear about Play Rugby USA, that is Mark Griffin's program there in New York, and Mark Griffin has definitely put on some good work there. Will Woods is a 3-year football player as well, and definitely somebody who can get around the field for the Fordham Rams. On the right wing, Henry Driscoll, 5'10", 150, a senior out of Garrison. And he's going to University of Texas at Austin next year. Zach Mizell, you're definitely going to want to keep an eye on this kiddo today. 4-year wrestler, senior captain on the wrestling team as well. And in the back end of the field, Daniel Chaco is 5'8", 145. He's a senior from Hartsdale. He's also a 3-year cross-country runner. He definitely knows how to get around the field without a whole lot of hard breathing. Chaco has also had to move over from wing to fullback today because Scott Sullivan, their normal fullback, had sustained an injury in their last game. Moving into the reserves, Nick Palermo is at 16, Seamus Cooper at 17, and Max Roberts at 18. Eric Martin's at 19. 20 is Daniel Galasso. Danny Murray at 21, Owen Curry at 22, Henry Burnett at 23, and rounding out for the extra player at 24 is Owen Fitzgerald. And that, folks, is your Fordham Rams rugby team today against the Arrows Schoolboys. And my counterpart, Jason Kimball, stepped out for a moment, so when he gets back, we'll get him back in here to introduce the Arrows. So Jason Kimball's just rejoined me, and Jason, I'm going to have you take us through the Arrows lineup and talk to us about these guys.
Again, the Arrows schoolboys side is going to be made up of 3 high school teams. So, one of the things of note, this is really their only second time as a collective group. So getting that cohesion, especially in the pack, is going to be something to watch as this game goes on. But again, this is a select side, for lack of a better term. The members of the schoolboys have to not only agree to come to the trainings, but they have to agree to the Arrows mantra of good sportsmanship and Catholic values. So it's a good accomplishment to have all 3 of the Catholic schools here in Houston represented it. Looking across the front row, you're going to have at prop St. Pius student senior William Hernandez. This is his 4th year of playing. And then at hooker from Strake Jesuit, Brian Smith, only a sophomore, but 5'9", 195, should be more than capable of holding down the front row. And then at the other tight head prop, Matthew Dow, also from Strake Jesuit, also a junior. It's of note, though, the Fordham Prep's going to have at least a 40-pound advantage over that front row. And again, with the youth of the schoolboys and the undersized, maybe something develops as this game continues. Second row, you're going to have John Sparks from St. Thomas High School, 6'1", 235. And next to him will be Kenneth Swanson, a junior from Strake Jesuit, also 6'5" and 195. So 2 pretty good-sized locks, nothing like the 6'6" towers, twin towers from Fordham Prep, but they're going to be capable to assist with locking down that front 5.
Swanson struck me, when I met him today, he struck me as a is kind of a very positive outlook type of person. You know, I remember meeting him last year, early in the season, and he was a lot shorter than he is now.
Absolutely. He hit that growth spurt.
He hit a growth spurt. I remember him being about maybe 6'1", 6'2". He was not 6'5" when I met him last year. He's a much taller young man now.
Yeah, and he actually it fits the part. He's kind of not just gotten taller; he's filled out a little bit as well. So should be a good lock to have for the schoolboys.
Excellent.
Looking over at the flankers, we have Aiden Brown, a sophomore from Strake Jesuit, and at the number 7 spot is Travis Bartinsky from St. Thomas High School as a senior. So again, only 2 seniors right now are going to be in the first 7 for the schoolboys side. Both flankers have had a pretty good high school career and will definitely assist here in keeping the ball close to the action. At the 8-man is the St. Pius senior Drake Parks. Drake's a 4-year player for the St. Pius Panthers, and definitely doesn't have any of the physical tools that you would be drooling over as an 8-man, but he's more than capable, very crafty player, and probably going to be the leader of that front pack.
Parks is electric on the field. I love watching him pick up from the base of a ruck or a scrum, and just finding his way through traffic. He seems to have a knack for where the space is, and then once he's through the space, he doesn't mind pinning his ears back and just making his own way through. So that's one thing I love about Parks. Bartinsky's an interesting individual. He's been at this game for 5 or 6 years now, and he's also been a referee for 5 or 6 years now.
Absolutely.
And this kid is just completely selfless. He doesn't mind what position he plays. He's been on the wing. He's been a scrum half. He's been wherever the coaches tell him he's got to be at. He filled out in the last 2 years. I don't know if you remember him when he was like a freshman or sophomore, but in the last 2 years he's filled out. Now he's a senior. He's got some muscle on him. He's got some ball smarts about him. He knows where the ball is going to move to, especially after being a referee for a while. And he moves around a little bit better. So Bartinsky's something else.
And as you're giving his little bio, we're watching him in warm-ups. He's sitting there instructing Aiden Brown, the sophomore, the opposite flanker from him, just on scheme, doing some last-minute calls. So even though playing, he's out there coaching right now.
And Bartinsky's going to be going to Norwich University, and I would say, knowing Bartinsky, that's a fitting place for him to go to college at.
Absolutely. At scrum half, the schoolboys are going to have St. Pius senior Cole Elam. Cole is 5'6", 150. He is going to be bigger than his opponent from Fordham, Spencer Carter. But again, I don't know if he was covered while I was out. Spencer Carter being a 2-time wrestling champ. I mean, that they're going to kind of beat it, neutralized, so to speak, as they square off against each other. Cole Elam has played rugby here for 3 years, but really this is his first year strictly as a scrum, and he's having a great senior year so far.
Elam's a very strong scrum half, though. He is not. I mean, you look at him.
He's a gym rat. We got to run him out every day. He somehow scrums into the weight room every day.
And he looks the part. When you guys, if you haven't looked at him, coaches, he definitely passes the eye test to a coach.
Continuing with the backs, at fly half, we're going to have Eli Young from St. Thomas High School. David John Selby is going to be playing it from the St. Pius High School. David John is only a junior here at St. Pius, but he's been playing rugby since he could learn to crawl. His dad is our head coach at St. Pius X. He actually spent last summer in New Zealand touring over there and just trying to be around the game as much as possible.
Did they move David John into fly half?
Nope. Sorry, misread the leaflet. He's going to be playing inside center, or what numbers he got on?
He's got 12 on it, okay. Looks like, yeah.
Yep, and he's been playing that a lot more for us this year. He was our starting fly half his freshman and sophomore year, but he's been playing inside for us and even some outside for St. Pius X. At fly half will be Eli Young from St. Thomas High School senior. And again, if you know anything about high school rugby in the Texas, St. Thomas is always going to have a phenomenal fly half. I mean, they do a great job not only of coaching them up, but it's just a great tradition there. And when they have a fly half rolling, kind of like Eli Young, they're really hard to slow down and stop. Field general is not even an accurate description. It's going to be a pretty good backline if you have a St. Thomas guy out there directing traffic.
And you haven't got, I mean, you touched on David John Selby a little bit, and you haven't really got to him yet, but with Eli Young at fly half and David John at 12, that's going to be a really 1-2 punch there. If one of them gets stuck into a breakdown, the other one's going to be able to stand in at 10 real easily, or if they split the backs, either one of them is going to be able to call the play on either side of the set piece.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's pick your poison at that point. There's a lot of options for Coach Mills, in those situations where he can have confidence that he has two guys that are going to set up a play and run it successfully. At a high school level, again, that's always half the battle, is just getting it out to the backs and making sure they're not messing up. Continuing on with the outside center will be Matthew Irby from Strake Jesuit. He's a senior, so again, might be a little inexperienced in the pack with the schoolboys, but the back line is going to be pretty fun to watch with senior Eli Young, junior David John Selby, and senior Matthew Irby at the fly half and two center positions. At the wings, we're going to have Max Honjo, sophomore from Strake Jesuit, and Connor Landry, a junior from St. Pius X. Both those players are relatively new to the sport, but they've been having a pretty good season so far. Again, as in every level of rugby, your wings, sometimes you're least inexperienced, and so same will be true here for the schoolboys. Again, what they may like in experience, both players will make up for in hustle. So it should be a pretty good group to start out there for the schoolboys. And then back at fullback, Eddie Battenfield, the junior from St. Pius X. Eddie's only in his second year of rugby, but has really taken on that fullback position. He's learning each and every game. He is, at 6'1", 185, he definitely fits the mold of a good, sound fullback. And again, as this game develops, depending on how well of a kicking game Fordham might have or want to deploy, we'll hopefully he'll be able to rise to the occasion and make his mark on this contest.
Just watching Battenfield break into a stride a little bit earlier, and he has really a kind of a lope to him when he breaks into a stride. His feet aren't that fast, but he doesn't have to be, because he's almost like got a 4-meter stride to him when he breaks into it.
Yeah, he's 6'1", but he's got to be at least 4.5 feet of legs. I mean, he's got two sticks down there keeping him going. So
he's something else, man. He really does stretch him out and go.
And the reserves are actually, for the schoolboys, some really experience and talent in the reserve set. So it'll be interesting to see how Coach Mills takes advantage of them. Chris Curtis, from a junior from St. Pius X. He can play anywhere in the forwards, primarily in the front row. Senior from St. Thomas, Rene Sanchez. Believe he's a forward as well. Another forward from Strake Jesuit is a junior, Joe Simon. And another forward / back is Christian Noyola from St. Thomas. He's also a senior. From Strake Jesuit in the backs, we'll have a junior, Alvaro Directo. Did I say that properly?
Yeah, Directo's a scrum half, and he's got a really quick delivery.
And he's been playing for a while, if I remember
correctly.
Has. Jacob Cortez, in the same vein as Directo, he can play scrum half. He's been playing a lot of fly half for the Panthers this year. As a senior player, played for 4 years here. His older brother played as well, so he's been around the game for a while. And then Alex Pollock, a senior from St. Thomas, 6'1", 180, is a member of the SaberCats Academy, and he intends to play rugby at A&M. To have him as a potential sub is a pretty good little backup plan to have. And then the lone freshman in today's contest, David Sipes, 5'7", 128 freshman from St. Pius X, that will even out the reserves. So, again, a lot of options here for Coach Mills, and I think the hardest thing for them going forward will be finding continuity with a motley crew of 3 different high schools making up a team. Whether it's calls, whether it's just positioning, it's going to be an interesting development to watch these boys have to try to figure out how to play on the fly against a very talented, very deep Fordham Prep side.
Who are your key players for the Arrows schoolboys today, Jason?
Again, and I'm more familiar with a lot of the Pius kiddos yet. We have yet to play St. Thomas, and I don't think we play Strake this year. But just based on my years of experience watching them, previously, Bartetsky is going to definitely have a say-so in how this game continues, especially at flanker. Someone with his knowledge is going to have an impact on it. I believe that the back line from Eli Young to David John Selby to Matthew Irby is going to, if they can get the ball cleanly and have an ability to use their knowledge and athleticism, they should have some impacts as well. Again, Eddie Battenfield, he continues to develop as a fullback. Don't know the offensive strategy or even defensive strategy of Fordham Prep, but he's been able to rise to the challenge so far this year. And maybe that old adage goes, if your fullback's doing good, you don't really use his name a lot, but he hopefully will have an impact on this game, both offensively and defensively.
Well, Selby's so good at putting people away and drawing defenses in in. If Battenfield can enter the line at just the right time a couple of times with Selby, when Selby's got the ball, then I think it can be lights out a couple of times with him.
And and you hit one on the head too with Drake Parks. I mean, he's not the flashiest, but he has that grit and determination. And you had a great analogy of him finding that crease and hitting it, because we always joked since he was a freshman he has no regard for his body. And I mean, especially in an atmosphere like this, playing a team from New York, he's liable to just do his darndest to play as hard as he can. So it'll be interesting to see what he does.
Just to prove it. Just to prove it. Just to prove he's a Texan.
Absolutely.
So what about on the Fordham side? Who do you see over there making a difference for the Rams?
Well, again, you got to look at the McStay brothers at 6'6" at lock. I mean, they could very well dominate the lineouts, with single-handedly. If they get their lifting in as well, it'll be a pretty interesting dynamic to watch. I'm very interested to see what Spencer Carter does at scrum half as a wrestling captain for 2 years. He has the ability to impact the game at that 9 position. And then 2, watching how the backs develop. They played a game just 2 days ago. It's very hot here in Texas right now. How their fitness level is going to be, how are they able to impact this game throughout, should be something to watch.
So I was before, when I was talking about the Fordham team, and while you were out earlier, one of the Fordham team moms had told me that Spencer Carter just found out this morning that he'd been accepted to Harvard.
Not too bad. Not too bad.
Not too
Harvard,
bad, huh?
Yeah.
So there's
you got an overachiever at scrum half right now.
You got an overachiever at scrum half.
He's a 5'6", 130-pound scrummy, but he's a 2-time wrestling captain going to Harvard next year. So again, not having seen film of him, I got to think he's going to have an impact on this game.
Yeah, so I got to agree with you there. He's going to have an impact. I'm going to say Danny Hughes is going to be impactful. Neil McMillan's kind of high on this kid. He's definitely one that can get around the park. He's come up through the Play Rugby USA system, which puts a lot of character and focuses a lot on character and the basics. And so, to me, that speaks volumes, especially when you're making a captain on a team like this. And so that's going to be something that's important. So that's definitely somebody I want to look to there, number 7, Danny Hughes.
And I'll tell you this, just watching their second side play the second side for Pius in the game earlier, they're well coached. I mean, all their boys know their roles. Their body positioning was correct. Their awareness without the ball was spot on for a second side. They were a pretty formidable opponent. And again, you can kind of come to expect that with this varsity side. They're going to be they're here to win a game. They're not just here to compete and say we came to Texas. So watching that develop will be something interesting.
Now, they got a tough time up against Dallas last week, didn't they?
Yeah, I was talking to the coach as they got off the bus. He said they had originally set to play Dallas Jesuit, but then they had to switch at the last minute, and they ended up playing the Quinn Colts. And he said Quinn Colts had one of the more physical teams they'd ever seen, bigger team, body-wise. And their second side actually played Dallas Jesuit. So he said that he had quite a few injuries. I saw a few guys in slings and crutches. So I think they kind of came out the bus up in Dallas and hit a wall, but they're definitely looking fit, ready to go for this contest.
Well, Dwayne Watts, tiny up in Dallas, he definitely goes to the weight room to find his players.
Absolutely, that's what the coach is in. His players are anything but tiny.
Yeah, they're anything but tiny, and he likes them that way. He puts people in midfield that would normally play at front row, right?
Correct.
And so that's and we like it like that. I mean, because that's he's given skilled players to these larger, faster guys that are and so we're getting some really beefy guys out there on the field, and we like seeing that. That's good stuff.
And they're having a good run up in the Dallas district this year.
Yeah, they are. It's good stuff. Folks, we're just about 10 minutes away from kickoff. If you're looking at the film right now on YouTube, you see the Arrow schoolboys gathering up around their mentors. Some of them are their coaches. Some of those are the Arrows. They're getting a little chat or a little preparatory chat from them. Arrows are in a nice little gold strip with black and white victory V on the front of them. This was a nice. It really is a nice kit you guys got him, man. It's
well, thanks to Hira.
Houston Youth Rugby Association kicked down for some of that, and So talk to me about some of the stuff the schoolboys get when they get to be part of this schoolboy program. What are some of the benefits they get from this? It's not just getting out to come and play, right?
Well, I mean, you're seeing right now on the camera. It's fellowship, especially in a Catholic environment, and especially the three schools. And the quote, and I'm air quoting on radio here, but they're rivals. But we always do come back together with our Catholic faith, and especially with the great conduit of rugby as a unifier. This is an ability to practice your faith and play a sport you love. So they have that going for them, and they're getting a nice kit out of the deal. They're getting some Arrows official practice gear as well, and then too, they're connected to the Catholic rugby system. So like St. Edward's is here recruiting specifically because they knew this is one-stop shopping to get some great potential talent to come to their school, which is Catholic University in Austin, and they may even be trying to talk to some of the Fordham Prep guys that aren't going to Harvard next year. But you have that connectivity, so to speak, with rugby, the Catholic faith, and that's something that the Arrows as a program has been able to provide. But obviously, Cool Gear always helps teenage boys out as well.
Well, it's smart, for St. Edward's to be doing something. Talking to Brandon Ellison, the coach at St. Edward's, he's telling me about all this money that the Catholic system has left over in academic scholarships every year. And we're talking not millions. We're talking more than millions of dollars,
Absolutely.
right? And, basically, if you go to a Catholic school, a Catholic high school, you are eligible for $10,000 a semester at a Catholic college just in discounts.
Absolutely.
And if you are in your top 10% of your grade of your GPA at that Catholic high school, there's academic scholarships for you. You just got to go and find somebody to talk to about it.
Well, and I always say it's one of the best kept secrets in Texas. The amount of phenomenal Catholic universities in the state, from University of St. Thomas here in Houston, St. Edward's, University of Dallas. I mean, you don't have to travel to Indiana and South Bend to find a great Catholic institution.
Right.
And they're all here. They're all affordable, and that's just for.
And St. Edward's is a sister school to University of Notre Dame.
Correct. And you have University of Cardinal in San Antonio. I mean,
Yep.
you keep going down the list of schools, and I think if students ever went and actually checked them out for their academic offerings as well as everything else that those schools have to offer, they'd be really surprised. St. Mary's, San Antonio. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep forgetting them That's why you never list things. You always forget at least 4.
Yeah. Well, and it's okay right now. If we forget them, they'll remind us later, right?
Correct.
Oh. So their kids are gathering up, lining up for the national anthem, and also they're introducing the coaches on the field. Jason, the coaches for Arrows, other than Brett Mills, who else is coaching with them today?
Actually, a few of the Arrows that some of them are current high school coaches as well. Some of them played at either St. Thomas or Pius. I know Paul Pacino, current assistant coach at Pius, as well as Brian Monks, who is a former Pius player in the Arrows as well. I believe Blake Pellerin has been helping out, but he's more of the admin side. And so is Matt, and I've never pronounced it right, Abermite.
Albermite?
Yeah, that's what I said. Who's a St. Thomas High School alum. He's the general manager of the Arrows.
That was actually a lie.
So it's a good mix of them all. But again, Coach Mills with his pedigree, he's going to be the head coach. I'm sure everyone else is there to lend a hand and just do as he asks.
And then John Wolf and Harry Bennett have come over to coach Fordham. So we've got Harry Bennett, played for the Sacramento Express last year, usually plays for Nyack, and he's still nursing that eye socket injury he obtained when he played the SaberCats. So they're over here coaching for Fordham. And looks like, is that Timmy O'Gara going to be our referee?
Yes, it is.
And who's the other ref with him? I don't recognize everybody over there. Is that Dave Yeoman that's going to AR?
Yeah.
Dave Yeoman and Jack are going to AR for us. So
sound safe to say we have a pretty good little officiating
Yeah.
crew. Pretty experienced.
Timmy O'Gara, he's one of the ARs that's been approved as an AR for the MLR, so he definitely has been getting a lot of experience as an AR and also as a number 1 or number 2 for the MLR.
He's also been an official for the Rugby Texas State High School Championships for the last 2 years.
Yes, he has. Oh, yeah, that as well. That's correct. And we're going to rise for the national anthem here. And as Larry Monks has said, kickoff is shortly upon us. Arrows and Fordham take the field here. Prepare for their restart. Looks like Fordham will be kicking off to the Arrows. Fordham is in the white and red strip on the right, and Arrows in the gold strip on the left.
We'll say this, we want to welcome everyone that may be watching from up in New York. Just to give you an update, it is currently 82 degrees in the shade right now in Texas. So
in the shade. It was almost 90 degrees when I got here. It was 89 degrees when I got here today.
Definitely felt like it when the clouds would part. But right now, an overcast sky coming and going. But this weather is definitely probably something new for the Fordham Prep Rams to have to deal with.
Anthony McGrath is doing the kicking duties for the Arrows. And there's our kickoff. McGrath has a high hanger coming over to the left, and Bartinski's under it. Bartinski gives it back immediately to Irby. Irby is tackled up. And now Elam looking for somebody to give to. He finds Bartinski early. Bartinski runs into a gaggle of Fordham Rams, and he is held up until he finds his way to the ground. Elam again looking out, finds Selby. Selby with a line drive that doesn't quite get downfield like he likes it, but there's already an offsides call on the play by O'Gara.
Offside by Fordham.
And
To the Arrows.
Young is going to go for an early touch finder.
You could see Danny Hughes, the flanker for Fordham. He was down there on that kickoff. He not only made the initial contact, he then dumped off the first ball carrier and made the second tackle on the wing.
Arrows kick the ball straight to touch. It will be the Arrows throw in. The lineup taken at the point of the touch judge.
Brian Smith will be handling the throw-in duties for the Arrows schoolboys today. It looks like he's going to go with a simple first jumper throw. Finding Swanson. Swanson with a take. Gets it out to Elam. Elam to Young. Young is quickly bottled up by Danny Hughes, but Hughes was considered offsides.
We have an offside penalty against Fordham.
And Young takes a quick tap. Young's got Elam outside of him, but he sees a gap. Young's through it, and he goes another 10 meters with it and takes it inside Fordham territory. Now it's out to Parks. Parks, the electric man, gets 2 meters off of the run. Ellen now digging it out. Looking for Bartinski off to the right side. Bartinski runs into traffic. And the ball's trying to be jackled from him, but Bartinski doesn't let it go fast enough, and O'Gara dings him for holding on to it.
As you see Hughes there, the victim of the penalty, he's just overexcited to get down there and make a tackle, was offsides by his coach. And the schoolboys were able to take advantage of it, kind of hit a stone wall after that Parks 2-meter run.
McGrath's boot with a long touch finder gets Fordham good field position inside Arrows schoolboys into the field. Let's see if that Twin Towers or the McStays.
That was a good thing for the schoolboys. They won that first line out when Swanson came down with it and was able to get a clean pass off to Elam, as them Twin Towers weren't really much of a factor. Here they are this time, though, and yanked it down.
McGrath cleans up a dirty pass from Carter. Good take. McStay now. Neil McStay stepping through, and he's got some meters on him. Good running by the lock forward. Now his younger brother, Evan McStay, gets right back up to the gain line. Carter now has it out to McGrath again. McGrath skip pass out to Woods. Woods bundled up by the Arrow schoolboys behind the gain line. McGrath trying to step his way around and can't find his way around Swanson. And he's bundled up. Still outside of the 22. They cannot get into the red zone just yet. Serto now trying to find his way in. And Parks has his opposite number driven back about 5 meters. What a tackle by Parks. Now Danny Hughes. He is wrapped up by Swanson. Great tackle by Swanson there on Parks. Now outside the woods.
Someone lost a shoe.
Carter, quick in to get that ball out. Now McStay. McStay looking for somebody for some help, and he's found none. Brian Smith just would not let go of his leg. Knocked on there by Fordham, and that was by George Gasper with the knock on. And the Arrows have the advantage, and they're not getting it. Parks just wasn't ready for that bouncer coming out to him, so there's going to be a scrum here to the Arrows.
Great phase by both teams, punch, counter punch, as someone was waiting for the other one to make a mistake until the knock on. It was a pretty long, drawn-out phase play there. And kind of seeing the rucks, no one's really trying to be assertive in there. They're all, committing to it a little bit, but then getting out and making sure that they're going to cover that ball before it gets out.
How about Drake Parks with that tackle? Fordham had a lot of momentum going forward until he made that driving tackle back 5 meters.
And again, like we said in pregame, not really concerned about his safety, as Drake Parks, but on that play, he definitely helped his side out by trying to get the momentum back on his side. First scrum of the game.
Tim O'Gara, he's going to be really careful about space and being squared up here. He knows everybody just getting started here, wants to make sure they understand what he wants out of space and what he wants out of seeing them squared up before they get set.
And especially good when you have a side like the schoolboys who haven't really played together as a unified 8 front.
Elam gets the ball out quickly. Young out to Selby. Selby outside. He finds
Connor Landry.
Landry trying to step around, and he gets the ball down to Elam quickly. Elam get back inside, finding his forwards. And now Elam digging it out again. Young to Swanson. Swanson finding a gap. Swanson just keeps pumping those legs, gets out over the 10. He's not quite out of his own territory yet, but he did enough so that Tim O'Gara said the advantage was off, and we're into referee's time for a minute as O'Gara explains to Danny Hughes something that he saw that wasn't exactly what he wanted.
I believe he was offsides on the second phase of that. He's been very aggressive as a 7, Danny Hughes has, but that's 2 penalties against Fordham, and they both were a component of Danny Hughes.
There it is. There's the offside penalty, and we see you right. You are right. Eli Young with the touch finder, and he does get it out just into Fordham territory.
It's one of those things, those 2 penalties on Hughes, you can't fault him. He's doing what a flanker should be. He's being aggressive, and he's trying to make plays and impact the game, but both times he's just been a little too early.
A little bit of a fight there, and
Tell you, Swanson, though, is doing a great job, and his 2 lifters are doing an excellent job to combat the McStay brothers over there. I know one of his lifters is Matthew Dow, the junior from Strake.
in that case, the ball came off of Swanson's hand first and off of McStay's hand second. So first knock on is going to be a scrum to Fordham.
Those of y'all watching at home, if you're kind of worried about who plays for what high school team, it's kind of easy for the schoolboys. Look at their socks. Green is Strake, red is St. Thomas typically, and the black is Pius.
There's Parks with an 8-man take, and we talked about that already, right?
Correct.
Aiden Brown now takes from Parks, and now Elam setting up. Brown wants to take again. He's not had enough running, has he?
No. Like to be Dow on that.
There's a Dow on that second run.
Yep.
They don't mind doing that picking jam. Young looking to have a penalty play here. Just going to tap and go and give to somebody. He finds Willie Hernandez. And Willie Hernandez is going to run and keep running. Tim O'Gara says that's free ball. It's not gone forward out of anybody's hands, but it went into a Fordham hand, and Derek Serto came up with it. Carter now looking right and left, finding
Big contact.
big Andre Villarba, and Villarba into Dowers. That's a sumo wrestling contest there. And now Chris Johnson with the ball gets it to the 10. And Eddie Battenfield trying to assert himself into the play, and he drives Spencer Carter into touch.
Tell you what, we said it in pregame, Villarba is a very athletic loose head prop, and he plowed his way, and I believe it was William Hernandez he hit, and he was able to muster forward about 2 more meters out of that.
Oh, did Ken Swanson take that? He did.
Sure did.
Young trying to find his way outside, and he little miscommunication there, and it's going to be Fordham ball. And Carter gets that ball outside to Serto. Serto running over into midfield, finding his way into Arrows territory. Now that's Gasper with the ball, carrying it forward for Fordham. Now going again, Hughes. He's wrapped up tight. Swanson getting out there and getting some work done. And Johnson's taken into touch by Bartinsky. Bartinsky is getting around the field some today.
Absolutely. And, I mean, if you had to hand out a quick MVP, you got to give it to Swanson on these lineouts. He's been changing the game at that lock position. And I just want to credit, too, that turnover, though, that was Fordham's backs coming up there and not giving the schoolboys an opportunity to get anything going. That's a great play for them.
Fordham takes the line out there, and now Evan McStay takes it over the 10-meter mark into Arrow Schoolboys territory. Moving out to Woods now. Woods getting it outside to Driscoll, and Driscoll taken into touch by Max Honjo for an Arrows line out. Swanson, he's got it, but Evan McStay making a fight for it. Or should I say that? No, that's Neil McStay, excuse me. We're going to get the two mixed up all day. Now McStay's going to need to release that as the ball as it goes to ground. But O'Gara says it's lost in the ruck and not going forward. It's going to be a scrum to Fordham. So good work by the Rams there in the breakdown.
We're going to have a scrum Fordham.
Again, we've played about 11 minutes and 50 seconds here, and it's been a stalemate. A lot of this game been played between the 22 meters.
And some solid defense here. You got to think that Parks and Selby are wondering when they're going to get some ball and some clean space, you know. Those two are used to breaking a game open.
Referee is keeping it safe for the boys during the scrum.
And it's good to see O'Gara do this here again with an inexperienced front row with the schoolboys. Size advantage with Fordham Prep. He just wants to make sure safety is what's paramount and taking the time for these scrum downs. Which, for the boys on the pitch, I'm sure they're not upset with the heat right now.
Carter pulls that ball out and he kind of overthrows his mark, but George Sparrows cleans it up for Fordham. Carter again. Now out to Cerdo. Cerdo finding a gap, trying to get through another gap, but he's wrapped up by Battenfield. Now McGrath carrying, but being brought down. Hughes. Oh, Hughes just bouncing Irby off, and Irby looks like he's hurt after Hughes bounces him off. And that is a penalty for Fordham, and Neal McStay takes the quick tap. McStay through. McStay try time. Fordham.
First try of the game.
And again, that was great phase play from the Rams from start to finish. Great positioning away from the ball is set that try up, but McStay definitely earned his keep to get in there.
Showed a little Sevens moxie there with the quick tap. Just step through the space quickly and keep driving those big legs to go for the try.
Almost at the 14-minute mark here in the first half, and we have our first points of the game.
And conversion is good by McGrath. So that makes it 7-0 for Fordham.
And it looks like Irby's going to be sitting out. He's getting treated by the trainer. And in will come Alex Pollock, senior, number 22 from St. Thomas High School.
And Bobby got here just in time, didn't he?
Yes, indeed.
For those of you who don't know, our trainer, our de jure trainer here is Bobby, and he is a former NFL lineman, and he is a pretty good trainer at that. Carter now getting the ball out, finding Cerdo. Cerdo not looking where he passes is at, but it doesn't matter because Gasper finding space and finding room and rumbling down the field for about 20 meters. He gets tackled up in the backfield by Pollock. And Carter tries to dig it out, but Tim O'Gara says it's been knocked on in contact, so Arrows are going to get a scrum.
You know, if you had to be critical of Fordham's play so far, it's their first one or two passes in their phase play have been kind of getting mucked down a bit. And obviously they've got the lead now. They're taking a lot of momentum, but it's kind of scary to think if they can get those first initial passes off a little more crisply, they could even have that much more advantage when they are attacking.
Yeah, it's almost like they think that first receiver needs the pass and his support's a little bit closer.
Correct. But even just the passes seem to be just kind of flying, lame ducks falling down a little bit. And if they could get them out there a little quicker, again, they're definitely got momentum. I'm not here to be critical. They're just one thing that they need to polish up a little bit on maybe when they get to halftime is just getting that ball out to their backs a little quicker.
Cole Ellum's ball comes out of his hand, out of the Arrows scrum, and goes straight in to touch the. Somehow it says it comes off the Fordham hand. Danny Hughes cleans up a bad pass, a bad throw in by the Arrows, and He is down the field, but he has not released the ball when he gets tackled at 22. And that's unfortunate because they had a good run of momentum there for another 10 meters.
Danny Hughes fits that mold, too, of not concerned with his safety. I mean, he just is a, banshee coming in there on offense, on defense. He was able to get that ball advanced, but then not releasing, erased everything that he just accomplished.
So, yeah, he probably should have released that there and at least rolled it back some so somebody could pick it up. So taken there by Drake Parks. Young trying to collect it up, and it's not collected by him, but Fordham decides they've got it.
I think Young was expecting that knock-on call, and he didn't get it.
Cole Elam cannot counter-ruck over it. Fordham cleans it up, and now Carter's going to dig it out of that second ruck. Evan McStay. McStay brothers have just been on the mark driving it forward today. Chaco cleaning up the ball for Fordham, but came forward out of the hands of George Spears, says Tim O'Gara. So it's going to be a Arrows scrum just inside Fordham territory. Drake Parks takes, and Danny Hughes is
right on him.
He's figured him out, right? Get down and hit those legs.
also great play from Serto.
Brian Smith steps in to the number 9 position. Eli Young looking to kick down into some space. And that kick takes a Fordham bounce, but it does end up in Pollock's hands. Now Swanson picking jams, and he gets 1 meter out of it. Elam now getting to Brian Smith. Smith stopped behind the line by the McStays, but he stays on his feet. And he's not going down until he's got support there, that's for sure. Elam sees nobody at the post. He wants to snipe it, but somebody gets there quickly. Fortunately, his support's right with him. Now Hernandez is stopped short. Bartinsky steps in the scrum half. Gets it out to Selby. Selby goes wide looking for Honjo, but it's wide up over Honjo's. And Selby kind of knew that he had penalty advantage on there.
Again, that's the experience of Selby coming in, playing his whole life, playing in New Zealand. He sit back and wait. I want to compliment Fordham Prep's defense. Their forwards are just controlling those edges of the ruck. There's not much real estate for the schoolboys to operate in.
And this one's going to go into touch just inside the 22, so the Arrows are going to have probably their best attacking position from a set piece today.
Yeah, they're inside the Rams 22. They've got to smell that try zone and get going.
And if this was a St. Pius game, I'd be saying that Selby's probably going to run for the corner.
Yeah.
I kind of got an ear for that one. Nice take by Parks. Young out to Selby. Selby he almost went through the gaps, but he was picked up by Woods. Bartinsky signaling to go back the other way, and the ball comes back to Swanson. Elam trying to go through the pillar, and it's not there. Bartinsky cleaning up. And he has definitely been around there to clean up most of the day. But O'Gara, he's whistled up something and not signaled yet what he's whistling. Looks like he said somebody had hands in. And the Arrows still have a ball in their end, but there is Derek Serto is going to the bin for 10 minutes with a yellow card.
Serto was just starting to really get into his groove, especially on the defensive end. So that's going to be a big loss for them.
And I'd say that's a penalty for repeated offense, offsides. And this is definitely within John David Selby's range.
A little bit. Again, he's going to be kicking in a pretty stiff wind. It's coming right from the south, right over that upright.
Yeah, I don't think he's worried about that.
No, he may just show the old muscling it through.
I've seen his leg before.
And he splits it.
And he does. It's 7-3 now with a penalty kick by Selby.
The penalty was kicked by number 12, David Selby.
Anybody watching this game online, you can also follow the game at the St. Pius X Athletic Twitter account. That's St. Pius X Athletics Twitter account. And also, if you're up for it, there is an Arrows RFC Twitter account. It is at Arrows RFC. Check those two social media pages out and support Catholic rugby.
So back to the line come the Fordham team, McGrath bringing it back. It's 23 minutes gone, 3-7 is the score, and it has been just as tight as it seems. Neil McStay takes the ball before it goes 10 meters, knowing it's better just to take the scrum than it is to let the schoolboys get it early.
McGrath was a little bit quick on that kick. If he'd have just taken his time and placed it right, they could have gotten this momentum back pretty well. It was the first real scoring opportunity the schoolboys have had. McGrath's kick just fell about 4 or 5 meters short.
You know, I've seen that the schoolboys are not doing as well when they're have the ball in their possession deep in their territory. So if it was me, I'd want to kick it deep and
let them figure it out.
Yeah, let them figure it out. Now Young has Parks outside of him, but he's lost the ball forward. Bartinsky has it though, and O'Gara says, "No, I saw the loss forward. If I didn't, Yeoman did." So it's going to be a scrum to Fordham right here at midfield over to the right of the field.
And I think that's a little bit of the, like you said, the schoolboys when they're deep in their own territory having difficulties. They don't know each other's roles yet. You get used to playing alongside guys for a certain amount of time. You get used to the ebb and flow. You get used to what they're good at and what they're not so good at, and you pick up where they're not so good at and vice versa. And these guys are just trying to figure out what each person's strengths and weaknesses are and on their own team.
McGrath kicking downfield. He sees a lot of space. Battenfield played up, but on this field, you got to be really careful because it's got a fast bounce on it, and it takes it to touching goals. So we're going to come back to where that scrum was at. McGrath has given up a lot of field advantage to the Arrows schoolboys here. The Arrows now have the put in way back on inside of Fordham's play. Fordham side of the field, excuse me. So it's probably not exactly what they wanted out of that kick.
Good idea, but like you said, unless you've played here before, you wouldn't know that this is natural grass, but it plays very fast, very hard. You had the right idea, what you were saying earlier, trying to pin them deep, but that ball just kept carrying. Very interesting, the last time they scrummed down, it really wasn't a wheel for either side. They just kind of sidestepped left and right, and I think it's just two packs that are kind of getting a little winded, and definitely Fordham playing a man down.
Well, with that 8-man out, you're not able to really give those locks a direction.
Correct.
Pollock now has Selby looping around. Selby looking outside finds Honjo. Honjo is tackled up and he's down, and now Bartinsky finds the ball. Tackles up Bartinsky. Bartinsky is held up in the tackle, and he has not found himself to ground yet. So this is a maul, and the Arrows are definitely going to want to keep this thing driving forward, or else they're going to lose it in this. So it doesn't get tied up and they don't lose it into a scrum, but that's what's going to happen. So that's going to be a scrum to Fordham here at the 22, looks like.
And that's a big momentum shift. I mean, Selby gets a great pass off to Honjo. Honjo puts it in gear, and Then the next phase, they dump it to Partinsky, but he's by himself. There's no other forwards there to help him ruck over. There's no one else to offload for a short gain. So the forwards got to get back involved and trail that ball, especially when it gets out to those wingers.
And again, we're back to not being used to playing with guys like this. With Parks in the backfield right now, I'd want to keep the ball in the backfield.
Absolutely.
Knocked on by McGrath there, and that's going to be a windfall for the Arrow schoolboys.
And again, as we said earlier, that just those first one or two passes that Fordham seems to be just struggling to get it to those guys. You know, that they've been playing really solid all phases of rugby, but just the initial passes are falling a bit short. Park still in the back line now.
It's already gone 180, gone 90, and then 180. So O'Gara's going to reset the scrum. Ball was in the Arrows side of the scrum when it went that way. So it's going to be another put in by Cole Elam. Yeah, you would think the numbers, there's a definite numbers advantage over here with Battenfield inserting in. You would think that would be the attacking decision over here.
Correct. Or maybe even get him a little closer to the action.
Again, O'Gara is making sure that everything's stable here. He sees where the problem is with the 8-man not being there to hold the locks together and direct them, so he understands that that's an issue, and he's making sure that it's very careful. Selby now with the ball looking for space, and he's not found it. Sparrows has wrapped him up, coming back the other way, and that has been bobbled up by John Sparks. And Fordham has the ball back. McGrath looking to kick it downfield, and he has it booted. Battenfield struggling to get under it. Unfortunately for him, the bounce it takes is not in his favor, but Fordham was not looking for him. Now, bounced out of Landry's hand. Landry had a good run with it, but it bounced out of his hands right before he went to pass it. Kind of came off his knee. Now looking for Evan McStay. He's not brought down yet. Swanson makes the tackle. Back to McGrath again. McGrath with another kick to about midfield. And again, it's Landry. Landry given to Battenfield. Battenfield wrapped up and taken down. Lucas Jeremiah is right on there to jackal it up, but he is knocked off, and Battenfield does not release. Carter now. Carter to Jeremiah. Jeremiah is tackled dangerously, but there's already another already another penalty being called.
If that first penalty would have been called and the official not issuing that, he might have had someone else in the sin bin from the schoolboys for that high tackle. That was very dangerous.
Jeremiah being a wrestler, though, he looks like you get on his neck, it's not going to hurt him that much.
Very true.
McGrath kicking it downfield, and he gets a nice touch finder there for Fordham, and they are in great attacking position about 8 meters outside of the Arrow schoolboys in goal line.
And they've really put the kicking game on a little bit more here in the second part of this first half, as you know, they have the wind advantage to their back right now, and it's helped pin these schoolboys back close to their own try zone.
I think McGrath has figured out that this is a crown field and he needs to kick side to side instead of straight downfield.
And out the back like he did previously.
Jeremiah picks up a bobble ball and he's taking it straight through and he gets tackled up. And now it is knocked forward, says Timmy O'Gara. No, he says it was a double movement penalty on Fordham.
Double movement call.
And
To go into the try.
Young takes advantage of that and gets the ball back down to the 10-meter mark and out of the danger zone for the Arrows schoolboys.
Definitely a momentum-saving call for the schoolboys.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Fordham had popped that thing back in for another try. Tell you what, though, both teams looking a little winded.
I want to say it's Chris Johnson that was called on for Fordham. I mean, I think he thought he was at the goal line and he wasn't. Parks with a great take, gets it out. Now Selby dips it right out to Pollock. Pollock cleans it up, but he's tackled up by Woods. And Elam now. And hands in the ruck is the call on the Arrows schoolboys. Just no luck on the unforced errors here. 2 minutes left in the half. And Fordham says we will go for the post on this penalty kick.
Too, it's going to be interesting. Although the schoolboys will have that wind advantage in the second half, the one thing they will be at a disadvantage of, it'll be probably 10 to 15 degrees cooler than the start of the game. And that's only going to help the Fordham Prep boys out a little bit more, as they're probably not used to running this humidity. And if they're going to have a pretty cool environment, which, 10 to 15 degrees in Texas is a big, big difference.
And that one has gone wide to the left and into the parking lot, so it's going to be a 22-meter drop for the Arrows schoolboys.
Tell you what, it's been a great first half for this contest. Just both teams playing good rugby. I mean, the penalties have been merited. There's not really been any dirty play. It's pretty interesting, too. You have three different high school rivals making up one team, and they all seem to be finding their groove.
David John Selby gets a good high kick, and Drake Parks gets up under it, catches it. He's to the 50, into the 10-meter mark. He makes another, and he's into touch deep inside Fordham territory. And that was incredible. If he would have had support, that might have made for some nice possession play. I think everybody was just standing around watching Parks be amazing there.
Well, Bartinsky did come in with some authority, but at that point he had to just lock in and try to maul him as best as he could. Landry also kind of assisted, but no one's really looking for an offload, which that could have been the difference.
Well, Parks isn't really known to offload.
No, he doesn't. No. He's going to get his feet, that's for sure.
Johnson with the throw in for Fordham here. At the end of the half, Parks knocks it down and forward. Johnson picks it up, and Fordham has the ball here on the advantage. Now McStay. McStay runs through. McStay finds space. He's looking for support. He finds it in Serto. Serto with some pace. Serto pins his ears back, goes for the corner. Serto trying not to drop it, and it's try time Fordham.
Fordham's number 4, Neil McStay, assistant, throwing the ball to number 8.
And Neil McStay with a nice little gallop through, gets it past the midfield line, dishes it off to Derek Serto. Derek Serto just pins his ears back and takes it in for a try.
All credit to Fordham, but two things for the schoolboys that did not help their cause is Cole Elam, the scrum half, went in there to try to get an easy pick, and he darn near well got the first pass off, but unfortunately once he bailed, that left the space behind that line out wide open, and that's right where McStay hit, and he hit it with authority. And then I didn't realize it until he had made the breakaway, but apparently the schoolboys had to make a sub at fullback. Battenfield was I think, very winded and tired at the first half, and he was taken out and replaced with the freshman, David Sipes, at fullback. And once McStay got into that secondary with a freshman back there, it was kind of all she wrote.
And the conversion by Anthony McGrath is good.
That conversion is good by McGrath, and that is halftime, folks. We have 2 tries by Fordham, one by Neil McStay and one assisted by Neil McStay, and with Derek Serto making the try, both of them converted by young Mr. Anthony McGrath, the vice captain, and then a penalty kick by David John Selby of the Arrows, bringing the score to 3-14 in favor of Fordham. Folks, don't go anywhere. We're gonna have one of the halftimes going on. We're gonna do an interview with Blake Pellerin here, and I do believe his lovely wife Sarah is in the booth with us, and she has been a great supporter of Blake's efforts in rugby as well. So,
some would say the most important supporter.
I would agree with that. I mean, I've got my wife Jennifer. She is one of my best supporters when it comes to rugby, and definitely does all the hard work for me when it comes down to it. So Blake Pellerin is in here. Blake, man, you are a workhorse in rugby. Is that not true?
Well, you could just ask my wife.
We're
having a lot of fun, and anyway, I appreciate it. But it's taken a lot of people working hard to bring this together today, especially. It's been really cool to see.
Well, that's excellent. And so tell us how all this came. Tell us how what all it takes to bring one of these events together.
Sure. So, for starters, obviously the Arrows Rugby Football Club, we're a Catholic men's rugby team here in Houston. Our mission is, as a Catholic community, to form men in Christian virtue through competitive rugby. So, when my coach Jim Wolfinger was my coach at St. Thomas High School, and he brought up the fact that there's this team from New York coming down and touring Texas. We all love a good story about touring sides and going and playing people in other countries, states, all across the U.S., wherever it may be, to play rugby with your mates and have a good time. So when we learned that they were coming down, we thought it would be a really cool deal to be able to put a side together. And actually it was Wolfie's thought that we could put together a team made up of the Catholic high school rugby team. So St. Thomas, Strake Jesuit, and St. Pius X. So we went ahead and put some thought into it and are loving it, having a good time watching these boys get together and having Coach Mills, who has just a prolific CV in terms of coaching at the high school and youth levels. So seeing him out there and really running the show, at least from the rugby perspective, is really cool to see as well.
Well, that's wonderful. How did you get Coach Mills to come out of the mothballs and coach one more time?
Well, I may have tugged a bit on the emotional heartstrings a bit. I don't know. I played for him in high school, so I had his phone number, and I think it just started with a phone call, and really sat down with him and told him what we were trying to do, and he can't stay away from the game. He loves it.
He really does, and I really enjoy having Brett beside me on the call when we're calling rugby games. His expertise on just the color side of the game is just brilliant. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's fun to listen to you guys on the SaberCats games for sure.
It's something else. He is a blast. Yeah. So tell me where you're going to take it from here. This can't be just the only schoolboy stuff we're going to see.
Sure. So. This campaign or this go-around, whatever you want to call it, whatever we do is going to work in conjunction with Rugby Texas's schedule as it is, so within the existing high school schedule. Obviously, we're not forming a new high school team or anything like that. This is an invitational side. All are welcome to join us and register their interest and everything. This may be, I believe it'll be the only fixture that we have this season, but, in future years, this is something where we would love to put the invite out to any touring sides into Houston. Would love to have them reach out to us in case they wanted to get a match with the schoolboys. And going forward, there will absolutely be opportunity to tour and to other places too. And actually, Jerry Wolf is the director of rugby at Fordham Prep. And he's invited us, of course, to come up and play. Obviously, there are some good Catholic high schools in New York.
Oh, yeah.
That we could go up and play. And really, within 5-6 hours driving distance, there's about, I count somewhere in the 6 to 8 Catholic high school rugby team range. There's Dallas Jesuit in Dallas.
Well,
and
you could go to New Orleans.
Oh, absolutely.
You got 4 schools there. You could just make a week of it.
Absolutely. And that's something that is the most probable.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, that's awesome, man. I mean, and that's a good vision to have.
Yeah, and that's the vision those are the possibilities that we could do with the schoolboy side. Now, in the Arrows men's side, we've got plenty that we're doing too, and we're kind of growing and very rapidly too. So we're on the cusp of, during the off season, we'll have to identify a few key roles that we'll have in order to bring in new players to the game. Because just with the culture that we have a lot of players who want to come in, a lot of men that want to come in and play rugby and grow in their faith that have never played rugby before, and that's always an interesting proposition for, say, a 32-year-old man that comes out and wants to learn how to play rugby. We got to figure out how to get people oriented to the club for that specific situation. So lots that we're thinking about there too with the men.
Excellent. So halftime's just about over, folks. Tim O'Gara's walking back out and talking to David John Selby about restarting the game. Blake Pellerin, we thank you for joining us here in the box for halftime, and definitely you put on a great event today.
Well, thanks, Grant. No, thanks for coming and thanks for doing this. It wouldn't be the same without you guys, and appreciate it, brother.
All right. So here we go. David John Selby with the restart. He puts a high hanger up. Is it just going to make 10 meters? Neil McStay kicks it back into his side of the field to make sure it goes 10 meters, but the schoolboys retrieve the ball. Now Selby, who stepped into the fullback position, gets it out to Swanson. Swanson's trying to get the ball back to his team, and Ellen picks up to Selby. Selby now driving forward. He seems to have a head of steam about him in this second half. Hernandez with the ball. It bounces off his chest, so it's going to be a knock-on and a scrum to Fordham here early on.
By the Arrows, it will be a scrum with Fordham put in.
So interesting change around there. Selby's moved into the fly half position. Young into the inside center with Pollock at outside center. Swanson has moved back to 8-man. And there's been some change around there at the...
Joe Simons entered at flanker.
Joe Simons at flanker.
Junior from Strake Jesuit.
Nice tackle by Bartinsky on Spencer Carter. And now Simon getting in there and making a tackle. Simon, that's another tackle. Simon's getting out there and making himself known. Derek Serto cleaning up ball for Fordham. Carter getting it out to McGrath. McGrath making sure that gets out to Woods. Chaco now with the ball, looking for space to run. Pollock, though, cleaning up that outside, making sure Jimmy McGaughan goes nowhere. Now McStay. McStay's proved to be the danger man all day for Fordham, just like you told us, Jason Kimball. And big ol' Villarba, man, he's
still
just
rambling.
Wow. Yeah, that's a tank right there. Now McGrath gets to Sparrows to Chris Johnson. Johnson keeps those legs rumbling, and he almost makes the midfield. David John Selby with an excellent counterattack. He just can't get through. Gasper, though, breaks through. Gasper into the backfield. Gasper trying to make it through, and he's going to bounce off
Landry,
but Landry it just holds on to him to take him down. Great stuff there by the winger. And he makes a try-saving tackle on the tight head prop, and you don't see that very often in high school rugby. Great stuff by Landry. Man, that's something else. Connor Landry really just put himself in harm's way. And
yeah, running sideways and stopped at full barrel of steam there. A few more subs for the schoolboys. 16, Chris Curtis, junior from Pius, and senior from St. Thomas, number 19, Christian Noyola. Looks to be like the whole front line may be new for the schoolboys here.
Yep, and Sipes is out there, as well as is that Cortez as well? No, it's not Cortez.
No, Cortez has not made it in just yet.
Okay. Ellen digging it out. Selby boots it back, but it is charged down and goes touch and goal. That's going to be good for the schoolboys because that's going to be a 22-meter dropout.
And guess who?
It's going to be Selby with the 22-meter dropout, and we know he's got that high hanger.
But who put the paw on it was Danny Hughes flying in there.
Hughes has been something else today, hasn't he? He's been playing right on that edge. I guess that's why O'Gara's been talking to him. Villarba, is that Hernandez coming off or Dow coming off now?
Dow in, Sipes off.
Down Sipes, and
Arrows bringing in a few reserves.
coming on with Rene Sanchez and Directo, Alvaro Directo. Selby puts it down to McGrath. McGrath's going to play a little kicking game with Selby, and I'm just here to tell you I wouldn't advise that. Evan McStay cleans that up for Fordham.
If you got it McStay to catch it, you should be pretty good.
Yep. Now out to Danny Hughes. Hughes tackled by Pollock. Pollock been doing a great job on the tackling today. He may not be ball handling all that well, but he's making his tackles. Now McStay again. Ball gets out to McGrath. Woods. Johnson. Johnson out to McCon. Oh, flying up in there comes Sanchez. Great stuff from the schoolboys. They get the ball back. Now Sanchez picks and jams. Doesn't have anyone with him. They get there a little late. Now Ellen gets to pull it out. Ellen goes back to Selby, who calls for it. Selby sees everybody coming up on him and doesn't see all the options he wants. Ellen snipes the post, gets a couple of meters. Now Selby's going to be picking up. Looks like he's going to box kick. Nice downfield. Gets it over to McGaughan. McGaughan looking for space, and he's wrapped up by Young. Young doing a great job to get in the backfield, and it's knocked over to the schoolboys, and they pick up the ball and are driving it forward. Now Young again. Young picks up the ball out to Swanson. Swanson stepping back inside. Out to Pollock. Pollock gets it cleanly. Driving forward. Good north-south run by Pollock on this narrow field. Doesn't take space away from anybody, but he gets penalized for not releasing. Danny Hughes with the quick tap and go out to Neil McStay. McStay to McGrath. McGrath kicking ahead, and it goes straight into touch. Out on the full there, and it's going to be coming back to kick. I wonder if Magara sees. Yeah, Magara sees it. He's going to bring it back to where the kick was made at. It's going to be a schoolboys line out just inside their 10-meter mark.
Tell you though, schoolboys with 5 subs entering this game, yet Fordham's playing with more energy right now. I mean, schoolboys should be taking advantage of their healthy legs out there and try to get some kind of advantages, but Fordham Prep's just not having it.
I tell you what, Jeremiah and Danny Hughes they've really stepped up their gameplay in this second half.
Well, it'll go back to a couple phases ago when David John Selby was trying to make the breakaway, but who tackled him was the 5'6", 130-pound scrum half, Spencer Carter. Spencer just dropped him where he caught him. Great play by that scrum half for Fordham Prep.
All that energy there with a knock-on by the Fordham Rams, and Arrows schoolboys getting a ball here with Ellen to put in.
Hughes all over him.
Selby looking for space, not finding a whole lot of it. He runs right into Villarba. Villarba just kind of tosses him down like a sack of potatoes. Now Bartinsky. Bartinsky's got Young in support. And Hughes with a strong counter ruck. Now out to Sanchez. Sanchez into traffic, and that traffic steals the ball from him. That's Evan McStay with the steal. Now out to McGrath. McGrath out to Woods. Sparrows. Well, that was Woods. That's right. That ball popped out quickly. Back into Fordham hands. Carter now finds his fly half. Fly half takes it. He finds a gap. And he's through. He's past the fullback. And that's Anthony McGrath with a try time for Fordham.
And that is a try for Fordham. Scored by number 10, Anthony.
Getting a lot of hands on the hips for the schoolboys. Fordham Prep taking advantage of that, hitting their creases where they need to.
And Anthony McGrath just taking that first receiver ball off of that third phase and finding that seam. He gave the dummy off to McStay, and the McStays have been taking that ball up time and time again, and defense sold on it, and he had the half gap there, stepped through it, and went on down the road.
Again, got to tip your hat to the fitness level of Fordham Prep, having played a game just a couple days ago, and I don't think they've made a sub as of yet, and they're running like this is still the opening minute of the first half.
He converts his own try, making it 3-21.
That brings the score 21-3 in favor of Fordham.
Great shot of Shepherd drive right there.
Up to McStay. Neil McStay with a good take. And Carter, again, cleaning out. He's been consistent all day. Hughes breaking one tackle, getting wrapped up by Selby. Carter and McStay again. Out to Chaco. Chaco trying to do something, getting up to the 10, making some meters out of that. Now Evan McStay. He runs right into Sanchez. Sanchez keeps him wrapped up and takes him down. McGrath stepping around Elam that time. Now Gasper. And he gets it out to Woods, and Woods is taken into touch by Bartinsky. That's going to be a line out to the Arrows inside their own territory.
And again, Elam trying to make a play was there, ready to be the first one to tackle McGrath. McGrath with the stutter step, and then unfortunate for Elam, he was the only one being aggressive. And there was a giant gap after that until they got it out there to the wing.
I think Mills has Elam sniping up right now, and while he's got everybody else drifting. Well, that's what it looks like.
And you kind of have to. I mean, you got playmakers like Drake Parks out now. You got to find a playmaker.
Danny Hughes, his ball slips out of his hands, but he goes backwards, and it's into Schoolboy's hand. That's Elam that cleans up for the Schoolboys. Now Ken Swanson. It pops out of his hands, but it's offside. Side entry is the call.
Against Fordham. Penalty to the Arrows.
Tell you what, if I'm ever in a foxhole, I want Danny Hughes next to me.
All right. I mean, he's something else, isn't he?
I'd feel a lot safer.
He's out there getting work done. If you got him and Bartinsky beside you, you got work going on.
Pick your poison.
There you go. Good clearance kick there, and it's going to find itself at 22 for a Schoolboys line out.
Schoolboys need to take advantage here. It's been a while since they've gotten this close to the 22. They don't need to try to do too much. Just maintain possession, get some positive meters out of this.
And it's overthrown there by Smith, and Selby going to try to clean it up, but it's not. He doesn't get there, and Derek Serto gets there, and then some. Serto into the Arrows backfield, and he is brought down by Landry again. Landry definitely making his mark in that Schoolboys uniform. Serto does not release the ball in time as Bartinsky tries to take it from him. That's at least the third not releasing penalty that Bartinsky's earned today for the Schoolboys. He is definitely making his mark with that Jacqueline work he's doing.
Now he's lining up to chase.
The kick does not find touch. Now Chaco's got it. Chaco out to Carter. Carter in two hands. He finds Woods. Woods goes right into Honjo. Honjo with a nice tackle. Carter looking to find somebody. He finds Hughes.
Wouldn't you?
And I would look for him, that's for sure. Woods runs right into Chris Curtis. And now Neil McStay. McStay, the danger man. He gets past Selby. Connor Landry even slips out of Connor Landry's grasp. And McStay is giving up the ball, it looks like. And it's going to be, as he's lost the ball in contact deep inside. And he was looking for somebody to pass to, and the ball just slipped out of his hand. And somebody from Fordham has unfortunately gone to ground there. And right now we're taking a knee for injury time here. So and that is Chris Johnson. He's looks like he went down hard on his shoulder when he came into the breakdown.
Enough can be said too about Fordham Prep's forwards. They've been, again, even if we haven't called their name, they've been very active, excellent in spacing. Notice that they, I think, have predisposition places that they're going to set up on offense and defense, and they're always there for support. They're there to win a ruck. They're there to get the offload, and they're doing that groundwork that forwards need to be doing. And again, it's an excellent job by this coaching staff and the players for being in the right place at the right time.
Coming back to the scrum now, it's going to be an Arrows schoolboy scrum from the knock-on in contact by McStay. Looks like Chris Curtis, Renee Sanchez, and Joe Simon are at the front row for the Arrows now.
So when the weapon of David John Selby's foot can hopefully help the schoolboys get out of a bad situation.
And we're going to see Tim O'Gara reset this scrum. It's not exactly, I would say it wasn't set and square. Definitely wasn't square on this side when it came to. It's not exactly what I would have expected out of O'Gara there. He's usually a bit more patient when he sees replacements come in.
Again, very inexperienced pack now for the schoolboys, as half of their starters are out, and a lot of young student athletes out there for them.
Elam has it out. Selby, of course, as you said, puts the ball downfield, but he's got it bouncing, and it goes into Fordham territory as they try to pick it up. And it is picked up as McGowan sets it down. Now Sparrows has it. He's trying to make it over the 50 as Young brings him down. Carter again, finding Serto. Serto through the gap. You can't just arm tackle Derek Serto. Serto finds McStay. McStay right there in support with him. Just like you were saying, McStay in support. Now McGrath with the ball. And McGrath sets it out for Carter to wrap up. Serto again. Serto to Hughes. Trying to make it through. He's about 5 meters out. And he sets it down, but Elam picks it right up. Elam is not offside, says O'Gara. And the schoolboys clean it up, and they avert some danger there. And they're trying to work to get the ball back down the other direction. And not rolling away as a penalty there. Fordham had got the ball, but they had not rolled away at the tackle. And Tim O'Gara penalizes that, and that's going to give David John Selby the chance to launch a touch finder. And he sends a bouncer. And it's not gone to touch yet. Eric Martin sends it out to Will Woods, and Will Woods knocks it on. But Jeremiah was offsides when he touched the ball. He had not got to an onside position yet for the kick. And so Eli Young's going to get a chance to put the boot there. And is David John Selby looking like he's a little winded?
I think so. A lot of hands on hips for the schoolboys, but I think he's trying to do
That's unusual. He doesn't always. He's an extremely in shape young man.
Well, I think he's trying to. Now that he's just got switched to fly half, he's also trying to play a little 8-man as well. He's been very active in rucks and defending rucks. You usually don't see that out of a back, much less a fly half. But he, like I said, I think the schoolboys are just trying to find a playmaker now. And David John, not that he's arrogant or bossy, but he wants to help his team win. So he's just, I think, mixing up a little too much. He needs to be focusing probably a little bit more on that back play, but can't blame him for wanting to try.
McStay with a clean take there, and schoolboys tackle Fordham into in goal and get a 5-meter scrum out of it. And this is hands down the best field position and attacking position the Arrows have had on the day.
Curious to see if Fordham's going to try to get a good push or wheel on this, because again, half the starters from the front pack for the schoolboys are out at this point.
Ball gets back quickly. Elam looking to pull it out. Selby out to Young. Young looking for a gap. He got little to no support. Gets it to Selby. Selby just gets in there to buy time for the forwards to get to him. Sparks is there now. Elam out to Swanson. Swanson looking for space. And his pass to Directo is knocked on, but there was penalty advantage on for Danny Hughes releasing early on the scrum. And so...
And playing on that edge with Danny Hughes.
Well, he did release early. He
Absolutely.
thought the ball was out. Now Bartinsky, he's at this level, he only knows one way, and they've picked him up. Elam trying to get the ball out of there. And Bartinsky could not get the ball down, could not get his legs down. He thinks he got his legs down, so he thinks it should have been a penalty for the schoolboys there on Fordham, but none such happened. Lucas Jeremiah is finally going to the sheds for the day.
And he left it all on the field.
He did. He's something else. And looks like he's being brought in by, I think that's Danny Galasso. And Galasso played the last game. So Galasso, he's coming on after already having played a game today.
As a center, I believe.
Yeah.
Going to go in that flanker.
Elam getting it out. Now Selby. Selby coming along. He gets a loop. He's outside and finds Landry. Landry, try time. Arrow schoolboys.
You got it. Try's going to be credited to Landry, but without Young and Selby's knowledge of not only the game but playing with each other, that pass wouldn't have been set up. That was beautiful passing from both of those young men to set that up for Landry. Great that the schoolboys are finally able to get a try of this game.
And that was well set up by Selby and Lee Young. Once the Fordham defense saw Selby was getting that loop pass from Young, they stepped inside, and that was all Selby needed. It was almost like they were just almost like telegraphing to him, hey, we're going to come talk to you now, and we're going to leave this guy alone.
Pay no attention to the guy on the edge. Pay no attention. Also, I want to give a quick shout out to Lone Star Christian Sports Network, who's not only helping broadcast this game today, but also helped with the great publicity leading up to this contest. Lone Star Christian Sports has been the #1 media outlet for all private schools here in the Lone Star State. I've been going now, got to be over 12, 15 years, and getting better each and every year. They actually have an active message board account where the high school rugby in Texas can be discussed. So if you're ever in need of information about private high school sports, Lone Star Christian Sports Network is a great avenue for you to find some info.
Selby lining up his kick. He has struck it. And it has struck it well. He's got his conversion. And bringing the score at 21-10. He's closed the gap, and only 11 points is the gap.
Schoolboys forward's going to need to be a lot more active here, just for them to be able to have a chance to get back in this thing. They, not just with the ball, but without.
McGrath gets it high, and it's knocked forward by Fordham, but it comes in Schoolboys' hands. Advantage is given, and as Henry Burnett comes up with the ball, that scrum is going to go to the Arrow Schoolboys.
It needs to be noted, too, this is only the second time the Schoolboys have been all together at the same time. One was a training a few weeks ago. At the tryouts, they didn't have a full roster just yet. You know, as they continue to play together more, hopefully you'll see some more in sync, so to speak, play from not only their forwards but their backs as well.
Elam now, again, Selby puts the boot on it, and it gets tipped into McGrath's hands. McGrath holding it up, and he gets wrapped up by Selby, taking the ground. Now the ball's out to Evan, then Neil McStay, then back into Evan. Evan runs right into Alvaro Directo, who goes to ground, and Evan McStay keeps going for another 5 meters before he's brought down by Swanson. Now Burnett going over to the left side, trying to make it to the end goal. Not quite, though. And McGarrett says it's held up.
Let's go back to what caused this sequence to develop. Is Spencer Carter coming in, the scrum half of the Rams, all 130 pounds of them, put a paw on that ball that Selby was kicking and give his team the opportunity to get it back. So, again, great play by the scrum half headed to Harvard.
Cole Elam is being sent to the bend, and a penalty try has been awarded, I want to say. Nope, not releasing is the penalty. And Fordham's going to take kick at goal at the 22. So straight on here, and now Cole Elam is off the field, so I'm thinking that's going to have Alvaro Directo step into the scrum half position as Landry and Honjo were talking about who's going to step into the backfield.
And also who's going to be the new fullback, as Battenfield left earlier, looked to be stomach cramps.
And that one has gone to the left, so it's no good. So it's going to be a 22-meter drop for the Schoolboys.
Of note, too, the wind has just pretty much died here in the second half. I mean, since it's gotten shady out here, I mean, the flags are almost pointing down, which it was coming straight out of the south. So that one advantage that the Schoolboys did have is kind of nullified now.
Selby again. Going to put it deep. Getting it back to Chaco and McGrath. McGrath takes it. He's going to put it high and off to the right, and it looks like, it almost went straight into touch. Directo. And there is a penalty going to Schoolboys here. They're going to take scrum at kick, I think, on this penalty, because it was basically an offsides of not back 10 penalty, as McGrath made the kick and none of the Fordham players got back 10 on the kick.
Director's going to stay at fullback, and looks like Young's going to head down to scrum half.
Yep. Free kick, and Young's going to tap and go. Gets around Carter, goes into Martin, and He's trying to release that ball, but it's picked up by a Fordham player, and O'Gara says that player did not release the tackle before he tried to take the ball. And somebody wanted to give a little chatter to Tim O'Gara. And I'm here to tell you that's just not going to go. That's just not going to play.
Billy by the arrows taken by number 1, trying to get into goal.
Willie Hernandez with the take, gets up to the 5 meters mark. Ken Swanstrom is driven off the ball, and Fordham has the ball back from the counter ruck. Now Gaspar with a nice little 2-meter run. And Burnett tries to get ahead of steam, but he's tripped up. Carter gets the ball back to McGrath. McGrath going to kick it to touch quickly.
And we're going to have an arrow throw.
Loose head prop for the schoolboys. Will Hernandez looks to be favoring that shoulder on that last run.
Yeah.
And I think they may be out of subs.
Well, they did talk. I know that Mills and Jerry Wolf talked before the game, and they did talk about being able to roll their subs if they needed to, since this was, a friendly. That'd
be great.
That was good. Swanson's running with it, and good take there. Young now out to Sparks. Sparks running straight ahead. Not quite low enough, but he's still got the spark for it, right?
Absolutely.
And he gets to ground and gets the ball back.
Good support by the schoolboys forward
Yeah,
there.
he's there. They're there for him. Young now gets the ball out to Selby. Selby kicks ahead, and Chaco stops it. Bartinski's there to put him under pressure. Now Hanjo with a little space to go, and Chaco comes up and wraps him up. Plenty of forwards there to give him support. Young marshaling troops. Out to Selby. Selby getting it out to Landry. It's a bit forward, but yeah, the referee was there. It's called by both his AR and himself as forward.
Pass home. We're going to have a stop. It will be Fordham's footing. Rugby fans, this is a reminder that the 10th annual Rugby
So as we get later in the game here, we don't have a time on the field, folks. The clock on the stadium scoreboard did not get started for the second half due to some technical difficulties, but it is 21-10, and I'd say we're probably got 8 minutes left in the game. Fordham with the ball. Serto with the take. Serto gets around Young. Young wraps him up, and he gets the ball out, and it is lost forward by Fordham. They got a lot of good meters out of there, only to lose it forward, and that was a lot of squeeze for not much juice.
And I think the bigger storyline of that phase was the fact that they're still charging hard despite only having 2 subs in the game, as opposed to schoolboys who got a lot of fresh legs and just aren't able to have the energy to keep going. Again, the sun's not a factor, the wind's not a factor, but
well, the one thing with the Fordham team is they can't really afford to have a whole lot of subs in the game because most of their subs played a whole game last game.
Very true.
The second side game before this. Young digging it out of the scrum. Selby now getting it to Pollock. Pollock outside finds Hanjo. Hanjo looking for Directo, and Selby has to clean it up. Selby is wrapped up by 2 players, and
they're going to win that ball back.
And it is won back by Fordham. Now Carter finds Burnett. Burnett charging forward into Bartinski, and Bartinski wraps him up, takes him to ground. Outside to Chris Johnson. Johnson outside to whoever that was, got it back out to him, back inside to him. That was McGaughan. And it goes way back to McGrath now. McGrath looking for help. He finds Sparrows. Sparrows stepping through traffic. Sparrows looking for help outside to Johnson. Johnson steps into touch. And Johnson goes a long way just to give the ball over to the Arrows deep in their own territory.
Who's taking into touch? We're going to have a line out. It will be the Arrows throwing.
Let's see if Swanson can't try to pluck one here and get it controlled. Let David John put a boot to it and set him up, but Swanson kind of been neutralized since that first half.
Pollock putting a boot to it now. Getting a good bounce off of it. Carter trying to clean it up for Fordham. And Honjo coming over to wrap up Pollock. Chaco staying on his feet. Chaco stepping through. Chaco looking out. Finding Danny Hughes. Danny Hughes. Nobody in front of him. Danny Hughes going to score. Try time Fordham.
And again, Carter, Chaco, two, quote, undersized rugby players, not making mistakes, controlling the ball, getting it out to Hughes. He gets credited with the try, but you take Carter and Chaco's play out of that, and that doesn't exist.
And Carter and Chaco punching above their weight all day long. Just, I mean, and they just continually punch. Even when they fail, they get back up and punch again.
And I mean, even despite, their size disadvantage, so to speak, I haven't found a play where that was a factor. I mean, they've played above and beyond, so to speak, their limitations, and fantastic rugby for the Fordham Prep Rams here today.
McGrath lining up his kick. He's got another conversion up, and he's 4 for 4 on conversions today. And that's making it 10-28. And that is the final. Tim O'Gara blows full time, and it is Fordham Prep out on top with the score 28-10. And Fordham comes out the winner. If you guys have been listening to us today on my MixLR podcast or on the Schoolboys webpage or even on St. Pius's YouTube channel, we appreciate everyone who's tuned in to watch or listen. This is Grant Cole, the rugby evangelist, along with Jason Kimball, the athletic director at St. Pius X High School here in Houston, Texas. We appreciate everybody tuning in to watch this production of Arrows Schoolboys versus Fordham Prep Rams. And we'll sign off here now and leave y'all to it. Have a great evening, and we'll see y'all in the rucks.
This is a special sports presentation of the award-winning Texas Sports Radio Network, the leader in sports broadcasting.
This private broadcast is intended for the private use of the listening audience and is produced under the direction and is copywritten by the Texas Sports Radio Network. Any rebroadcast, retransmission, use of sound bites and interviews, any illegal theft of signal or attachment of the audio and video streams and all associated files, and any and all other usage of the accounts of this broadcast, both audio and video, without the direct written consent and permission by the Texas Sports Radio Network is strictly prohibited and protected by common, federal, copyright, and all legal and lawful laws. All rights are reserved by the Texas Sports Radio Network and TSRNsports.com.